So with the new base M4 MacBook Pro, Apple's basically fixed the biggest issue I had with last year's M3 model, making this terrific value at $15.99. What did they change exactly? Well, let's dive right in. Beginning with the design, there's not a lot different here because the M4 essentially is still using the same design language introduced in 2021, but this still feels like peak MacBook design. I really can't fault anything here, and yes, I know some are going to complain about the humongous notch, but it's a non-issue in my opinion. I usually forget it's there, and so I truly believe this design is perfect. This form factor especially offers the best balance, where it's portable enough whilst giving you some serious real estate, with that 14-inch panel. Coming from an M1 MacBook Air, the larger screen does actually make a difference. And also fun fact, the M4 model is ever so slightly lighter than its higher-end counterparts, so you pay less and you get less, which makes sense, I guess. Also good news guys, for those who really wanted space black last year, you can now get that on the base model, but I've always thought silver is the best color option for Macs in general. It's a classic option and it always looks great. You know what else would be great? If you subscribe to the channel, of course. It's free and will bring you the latest about Apple right to your subscription box, so please consider it. It would be appreciated. Join the Saranbyte gang now. Anyways, last year the M3 base model had lost a Thunderbolt port on the right side, but thankfully the M4 model does gain this back and you also get Thunderbolt 4 support, plus you get the same SD card reader and HDMI port like the other models, which can come in handy. What's also great is that you can now use two displays simultaneously whilst the laptop is in use, which again is a nice upgrade over the older M3. Moving on to performance, in this machine we have the base M4 chipset. It's got 10 CPU cores with a split of 4 performance and 6 efficiency cores, and also 10 GPU cores. And there's not much for me to say here because surprise surprise, Apple Silicon is still great. I've been using an M1 MacBook Air for the last 4 years, and I've yet to have any performance issues with that machine, and so M4 here flies through anything I throw at it. Obviously, I've been mainly editing videos, it's regular 4K footage. I don't do many fancy edits, but I'm probably pushing this machine a lot harder than most consumers, since I know for a fact regular consumers do actually buy the base MacBook Pro because they just want a pro machine and look awesome. And so since I've been editing videos on this every single day, and there's been absolutely no slowdowns, you should not have any performance issues. I also surprisingly don't hear that single fan inside very often, and so performance is great all round guys. By the way, I don't play games on my Mac, so I haven't been able to test hardware ray tracing, but of course I'm glad it's here, especially if it does help improve the gaming landscape for macOS, so that others can more easily play games on this machine. So let's now address the big upgrade with this machine that's a real game changer, and that's 16 gigs of RAM. Last year I felt 8 gigs of RAM on the base M3 was its major Achilles heel because whilst 8 gigs might be fine right now, as the machine gets older and it becomes more taxing for the machine to run newer versions of applications you use, I am very sure 8 gigs of RAM is going to start to become a bit of an issue, and so of course 16 gigs of RAM is nice to have, especially for future proofing. Now the real reason Apple's given us this RAM upgrade is because Apple Intelligence needs all this RAM, and so I guess there are positives to AI being shoved in our faces. Moving on to the display, this is easily one of, if not the best display on a laptop right now. It blows my mind that Apple's actually given the base 14-inch the exact same panel as its higher-end counterparts, but I appreciate the mini LED, I appreciate the high brightness the M4 models now have. I don't care about 120Hz, but it's nice to have, and this will be a big reason many go for this over the MacBook Air, because if you watch a lot of movies and TV shows, this display can make a difference. And if you're fussed about reflections, you have the choice to get a nano texture finish, though it is a pretty pricey upgrade. Moving to the webcam, we have a new 12 megapixel center stage camera, which means webcam can now track you as you move, which is pretty neat. But I actually can't tell much of a difference quality-wise between the 1080p FaceTime camera on this and the 720p FaceTime camera on my old M1 Air. At the end of the day, it's a pretty tiny sensor they put inside the lids, and so I would suggest using your iPhone via continuity camera instead. The quality your iPhone produces will be miles ahead, and remember that also has center stage. The speakers on this absolutely blew my mind. They sound absolutely incredible, and I just can't comprehend that such a small machine has speakers that are this good. Again, this is a big reason to get the Pro over the Air. The mic's also crystal clear for cause, and here's a sample for you guys. Here's a quick test of the microphones on the MacBook Pro, let me know how this sounds. The keyboard is also fantastic and the trackpad is perfection, it's nice and large, and every time I use a Mac I come to appreciate how incredible Apple's trackpads are, because when I used to use Windows laptops, that was one thing that sucked consistently on all of them, and it seems Apple is the only manufacturer that can nail this part of the laptop experience. Touch ID has also been reliable, however I do hope we see Face ID one day, because just opening the lid and the laptop instantly recognizing you would be so convenient, and with the notch up at the top I'm sure Apple could squeeze in a few sensors to give us this technology. In fact, Face ID makes more sense here compared to the iPhone and iPads, and could be Apple's answer to Windows Hello, so I'm hoping it's in the works. Connectivity wise, you have Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.3, I've had zero issues in this department, it's been rock solid. The battery life has frankly been bonkers. This has similar battery life to the 16-inch, and I've noticed I only dropped 9% of battery life once I finish editing for 2 hours. That's insane. It blows my mind how good Apple Silicon is when it comes to endurance. Back when I was using a dreaded Intel MacBook Pro, that would be close to dead once I finish editing for a similar amount of time, and so this is easily the best thing about Apple Silicon Macs. They last forever, guys. So those are my thoughts on the new 14-inch M4 MacBook Pro, and at the end of the day, guys, I really have nothing to complain about. This is a tried and tested chassis. We've already had 3 great generations of MacBook Pro based on this, and the improvements we got this year are pretty solid, especially the addition of 16 gigs of base memory, which makes the base model incredible value. I'll leave links to buy this machine below. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and thank you for watching. So if you're thinking Apple's been pretty boring as of late with the iPhones, do not fret, because we have groundbreaking changes coming to iPhone 17, and when I say groundbreaking, I just mean they're gonna make it thinner, because why not? Essentially, for those out of the loop, the plus size is dead. It's not been selling well, and it's funny because that was brought in as a replacement for the Mini, which was also not selling well, and so what I've learned from this is that we don't really need a 4th iPhone in the range, but Apple thinks otherwise, because they've gone back to the drawing boards with a new 4th iPhone, and this time it's a slim model that's basically Johnny Ive's wet dream. So this is rumored to be called the iPhone 17 Air, which yes would make sense based on what Apple's done in the past, but also do know Air doesn't actually mean thinnest product anymore. For example, the iPad Air is actually thicker than the iPad Pro, so the name has kind of lost its meaning over the years, but yes, for a product like this, Air would make sense. It's going to be crazy thin. We're hearing this could be thinner than the iPhone 6, yes, the bendy iPhone, and apparently it could be 6mm in thickness, which is pretty insane when you consider the fact that current Pro iPhones are 8.25mm in thickness. Now, if you're worried about how durability is going to be with such a thin device,